It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from Crumbs Brewing Company, and this is a can of their sourdough pale ale. It's coming in at 4.2% ABV in a 330 milliliter can. So Crumbs Brewing Company, all of their beers are made from leftover bread that people don't want to eat. They buy it from a baker, make some beer with it. In this case, it's the sourdough that they're using. So this is going to be really interesting. I picked this up in Waitrose. Cost me about £1.50 a can. Let's get it out into a glass and see what we get. Good bit of smoke on the can opening. Beer in the glass. We have a 1 to 2, I'm going to say a 1 finger white head on this one. I'm not going to be able to say a 2 finger head. 1 finger white head, slightly hazy looking beer. Slow moving carbonation on this one then. Impressive that it's come from a can, of course, but if you look closely, there's little bits of sediment in the bottom of the glass there. So quite possibly a can conditioned beer. So what the brewer will do is add just the most kind of minuscule tiny amount of yeast into each can. Some cans might have more than others, and it'll just mop up if there's any residual sugars, if there's any leftover sugars that in the first fermentation it didn't happen, then you're going to get a slight second fermentation in the can where all the sugars get turned into carbonation. Really, it's not quite alcohol because it's not enough, but it helps to carbonate the beer. It's that kind of old-fashioned second fermentation process. You don't want too much of it in a can because it'll turn that can into a bomb. Right, slightly hazy, amber in colour. Let's get the aroma. Yeah, you definitely get that slight kind of funkiness, that slight sourdough. Like, this is no ordinary pale ale. This is not going to be an ordinary, slightly malty, slightly hoppy, balanced. This could be, it might, but it could be something different here. You're getting a slight funkiness from that kind of sourdough. A little bit of sweetness. It smells good. A little bit of maybe lemon from the hops. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's really interesting. Really interesting. It's got it's got a lovely, it's quite citrusy, to be honest. It's got a nice citrus. First of all, it's very drinkable, very refreshing, very drinkable. Carbonation pushes the beer around the inside of the mouth. You get a bit of passion fruit and mango here. You'd also get a little bit of sweetness from the malt. A biscuitiness, a breadiness. But there's a certain kind of, it's hard to describe this, to be honest with you. It's a slight, it's a sourness in the beer, but it's something that is very different. It's something that is very kind of, it's almost an astringent bitterness from the hops, but it's not. It's that kind of sourdough flavour that's really impressive. Really impressive. Let's make no mistake here. Let's not confuse matters here. I'm loving this taste. I am loving that kind of sourdough mixed with the bitterness of the hops, mixed with just how refreshing it is. Oh, it's lovely. Really lovely. Yeah, I picked this up in Waitrose. Now, Waitrose for me is they've got this beer selection that it's never really advertised. It's not really kind of talked about. But you go to Waitrose and they've got an amazing array of beers in their supermarket. Everybody talks about Tesco, Morrison's, Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer's to some extent, Asda to some extent, Asda quite a lot actually. But Waitrose, they seem to kind of fly under the radar. They seem to, like, there's no one really talking about Waitrose beers on Untapped or YouTube or Facebook. It's a strange one because I've always liked Waitrose. We used to have a Waitrose. Literally, it was my closest supermarket to this house. We had an old Safeway, and there was a deal between Morrison's and Safeway's many moons ago, early 2000s, where Morrison's bought Safeway, and they had to sell, if there was a Morrison's and a Safeway within a mile of each other, they had to sell the Morrison's off or the Safeways off. So they sold it to Waitrose. Waitrose was there for a good 10 years. It was brilliant because I could pop over, I could buy Thornbridge Jaipur. It was a 10-minute walk, 15 minutes max. Thornbridge Jaipur, Kipling. They had a lot of the Fuller's specialty beers at Christmas in. It was just a really good supermarket to buy craft beer in. But back when it was in Barry, it was all bottles. It was only when they closed down about 4 years ago now, Waitrose. And it's now a Home Bargains and an Iceland supermarket. We already have an Iceland in Barry. We already have a Home Bargains in Barry. So it's a bit disappointing that we got two of the same supermarkets in this small town now. And now we don't have a Waitrose. For me to drive to Waitrose is probably a blooming 10-mile drive and then a 10-mile drive back, which is a blooming shame. But anyway. If the whole point of this story is, if you want to buy something interesting, different, slightly funky, out there a little bit, then have a look in Waitrose. Have a look. Have a taste of this. It's really good. I reckon I could drink about 4 or 5 cans of this. Easily. It's lovely, refreshing. The ingredients are water, barley, wheat, oats, malt and sourdough breadcrumbs, wheat and rye and hops. Goddard's Brewery, this has been brewed with by Crumbs Brewing Company, and Chalk Hills Bakery in Reigate. There we go then. And the other story is that nearly half the bread produced in the UK never gets eaten. That's a shocking waste. Half the bread in the UK never gets eaten. So I'm ready to rate this. Don't let your half a loaf of bread or half the bread that's being produced, don't let it go to waste. Go and buy some of this Crumbs Brewing Company stuff and enjoy it. My rating for this, I really like it. It's refreshing, it's drinkable, a little bit of coconut, a little bit of lime, a little bit of sourness coming through, a little bit of grapefruit, bitter on the back end. Brilliant. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.